Welcome to Gen Z Hoops, the Gen Z basketball, coaching, and sports business show.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Gen Z Hoops podcast. Today I'm joined by Assistant General Manager of the Birmingham Squadron, Mr. Dillon McGowan. Dillon, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity today, and welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Well, to jump right into it, can you talk a little bit about your connection to the game of basketball?
Yes, so growing up, I played, and I don't have any family members or anything like that played ball. All my family's either football or baseball. But growing up, I just was attracted to basketball, and I just always played like in little rec leagues, like local rec leagues and stuff like that. And school team, high school, I played. So yeah, I was just always a fan. I watched Hornets, Chris Paul era growing up, and I watched the Big East had their channel back then. And I would watch a lot of Big East college ball when I was a kid. So my room was all Hornets out in middle school. I had like a Chris Paul fathead on my wall, and we always had a goal in the driveway. And my house typically was like the meet up and hoop spot. So like 2-on-2, 3-on-3 was always played. And then nowadays kids, like, I don't think that kids even do this anymore, but like you always met up at like the local park, and played pickup, and it would be like a mixture of like students. You got like grown men, out there playing with you. So like I always just grew up playing with this like random people. All my best friends were all played basketball. So yeah, I just grew up playing. Like I said, had no connection to it beyond that, but I just loved it, love the sport. So I never played any other sports. Never played football, baseball, nothing. So
Would you say CP3 was the player you were trying to model your game after at a young age?
no, I couldn't do what he did. I mean, I definitely learned the game from watching him, just like as smart as he was as a player. It was, I feel like my IQ for the game helped watching him. But so early on, I was actually kind of tall for my age group. So when I was younger, playing like in like the rec leagues and stuff, I was like our center, and we had a really bad team. We were like 0 for, I couldn't tell you how many seasons we didn't win a game, and it was only like an 8-game season. It was very amateur. But like I was like the big man. I held it down in the paint, and then I could like handle and shoot a little bit too. But like offensively, I was taller, so like I would score around the basket a little bit more. And I was like the backup point guard. So like I think we had one other kid that was decent on our team that would handle, but if he wasn't, it was the leagues where you had to play like a certain amount of quarters.
Yep.
So you couldn't just play the whole game. So I could play like 2.5 or 3 quarters, depending on how many players. If we had 10, we could only play 2. If you had 9, then 2 guys could play 3 quarters. And I was always the one that would play 3. And so I would like backup point. We would kind of alternate me and that kid whenever we needed a handler. But yeah, and then once I got older, probably like 7th grade, everybody started kind of like, hitting their growth spurts or whatever. And that's when I came more into being my natural role, which is more like the JJ Redick type. I was just like a white guy shooter, couldn't guard really anybody, but I could shoot the ball a little bit. And I was pretty smart. So like, even though I wasn't athletic or I kind of knew the guy. I knew the guy. I was always like a step ahead mentally, so I feel like it helped me playing against like more athletic dudes or bigger dudes because I was always kind of like in the right spot and stuff like that. So that was kind of my spill in basketball. So I played high school for like 2. I didn't even play freshman year. I had a surgery like going into freshman year tryouts, and I couldn't try out for the team, and so I had to like walk on in high school literally to get on the team because I mean our high school was pretty competitive. Like we weren't a powerhouse basketball, but like a lot of athletes in my I'm gonna say parish, but like county, we call them parishes. Like there's a lot of athletes, so like our team was pretty good. Like we had like some really good guards too. So like because I wasn't big, I could only play like 1 or 2 positions, and we were like I said pretty deep in that position. So I was like an into bench guy, and like I just like walked on the team basically. And then after a year of like kind of like earning my keep, by my junior year, I was able to like actually be on the like official roster and stuff. And then I played for literally 1 season, and then I had knee tendonitis really bad. I literally couldn't sit in the classroom. Like I would have to like stretch my legs out in the classroom, and like I looked like like the old players, like the old heads that are at the games, and like they're always grabbing their knees and stuff. Like that's how I felt like in high school. And so my senior year, I got a job and I gave it up, and I got a job at Foot Locker, and I quit the team, which I regret to this day because all my best friends, were on the team. And even though I wouldn't have played a lot my senior year, I regret like not being able to go on those road trips and hang out with I always hung out with the team, and like if we ever played outside of like the official, like we played pickup or whatever, I was always like included in that stuff. But as far as like those road trips, those were like good memories that we had. And I kind of hate that I gave it up my senior year. But I also was only in school half the time my senior year because I was taking college courses my senior year of high school. So I was like barely on campus.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like I was kind of like thinking too much about it, but I was like, oh, I can get college credit and like get ahead. And then I can like get a job and like have money and like make, I was making like minimum wage working part-time job. So I'm making like $100 a week, maybe at the most. And it's like I could have just stayed on the team and just like, be like the normal high school kid or whatever. But instead I was trying to like get ahead for like my next college stint and helped me in college because I had like 27 hours going into my first year of college. So I was
Wow.
basically a year ahead. But looking back, I definitely, like I said, regret like quitting on the team. And I mean, I didn't quit on them. Like they didn't really need me. I was going to be like the ninth man. So like I would play very sparingly. It's not like the NBA. You play nine guys in high school. You play. Your best players play the whole damn game. So we had like an all-state point guard. He literally never came out the game. And then our two guard, who I would have probably played his position, was also like an all-district guy. So like I was barely going to play anyway. So but yeah.
That's all right though. Like I don't blame you for trying to get ahead though. I don't blame you at
No, from a
all.
life standpoint, it definitely helped me. From a like I said, like it's just pure memories. Like that, like I just kind of regret. Like I said, my best friend was on the team, and like I just regret because there was times when those guys were like talking about road trips, whatever. And I'm thinking like, damn, I wish I would have been there. And
Yeah.
like our head coach was really funny. He's like a Hall of Fame head coach
Wow,
in the
really?
state of Louisiana. Yeah, he won like in the '80s with like a really good high school team, and he was like a character. He's like typical like old school coach who's just like can be mean at times, and like so like you always make fun of like the players always make fun of your coach or
Yeah.
whatever, especially in high school. And so like just stories like that, and like I had some of those stories. 'Cause I spent 2 years on the team, but like the senior year, like there's some stories that like I kind of missed out on. Like I said, I still hang out with some of my teammates to this day. We're still like really good friends. My best friends actually was one of my teammates. So yeah, but that's my like playing history. I didn't have a illustrious playing career, but I learned a lot. Definitely like watching the NBA. I feel like I was, like I said, mentally, I feel like I was always ahead because I was always watching like higher level
Mhm.
basketball. So
At what point did you realize that you wanted to pursue a career in sports?
early, like I literally was, me and my friends are up not late night in middle school playing 2K, doing like franchise modes.
Yeah.
And I think we didn't know like everybody was doing this back in the day, because like social media wasn't as prominent. You didn't like see other people what they were doing as much. But now you talk to people, like everybody was doing the same thing we were doing, but like we weren't even playing the games. We were like picking teams and you had to like manage your team.
Yeah.
So like the shit that like Sam Presti and like the Nets are doing, like we were doing that shit on 2K back in middle school. Like I was selling all my guys, getting draft picks, loading up on draft picks. And we would download so I knew like the
The
high school
new
classes
rookie
coming up.
class. Yep.
So we were downloading the draft classes and like we were like editing them, making sure they were accurate and stuff. Like we spent way too much time playing franchise mode and not actually playing the games. Like we were
Mhm.
just simulating, and it was just like we had like a point system. So we would like keep points. Like if you had, playoff, like your record was a point. So like every win was a point. And then if you made the playoffs, you'd get like 2 points for playoff wins. If you win a championship, you get like 10. And so we would play so many years. And then like after like let's say 10 years, we'd like see who had the highest points and that'd be like the winner. I mean, really just trying to win a championship because like that was the kind of like a cheat. Like if you won the championship, your points kind of just like shot up. But yeah, we were doing like GM mode in middle school. So I wanted to be a GM. I literally majored in business management because Dale Demps, the GM of the Hornets at the time, I looked up what his degree was in, and he had like a master's in business administration. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go get a business degree and try to get the MBA. That was before I even realized there was like a sports management major at LSU, which I did for grad school because I couldn't get into business management school. My GPA wasn't high enough. But I graduated early. I did like the business major, so I got like my major wasn't sports. Like I did like a normal because I knew like okay, if I don't work in sports, I could have like a fallback of like a general
Right.
degree, which my degree probably couldn't get me a job right now anyway. But in my head, that made sense at the time. But yeah, so I went into college knowing I wanted to work in sports. What I didn't know is what you should do, to break in. Like I didn't know about being a manager. Like I knew kind of what they were, but I didn't know like how to get into being like a student manager. And like looking back, I would have approached it totally different coming out of high school.
You ended up being a grad assistant for LSU. Can you reflect a little bit about your time about being a grad assistant for those 4 years?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like I said, I did 3 years undergrad. My two of my last 3 years, so like my junior and senior year of college, essentially, I was a manager. And then I literally went back to graduate school because I wanted to continue being a manager. I was like, I haven't like reached the top yet. Like I was kind of like up and coming as far as like the manager rankings go. And I was like, I gotta like see this through some more. So I literally got into the sports management school. Shout out to my advisor who helped me get in there because like I said, I was on probation my first semester because I didn't have the requirements. But I was just getting more involved with the coaches and getting more involved with the team. And so I was like, I gotta like continue to build on this and that'll help me get a job beyond. So by that point I kind of knew like I needed to kind of invest in the manager stuff to get an NBA job or get the next job. So as a GA, I was in charge of all the equipment. At that point, like I had like revamped the equipment room at LSU. Like my video guy at the time kind of told me like, yeah, run with it, like reorganize it, whatever. So that's how I got into equipment, started doing that because none of the other like upper managers were doing that. They were doing more like the scouting stuff with coaches, PD with players, like every manager kind of has their knack. Well, mine started off kind of as equipment. And then as I got into be a GA and I'm like over all the managers, then I started working with the coaches, preparing scouts with the coaches, coordinating player development. I was literally doing video, like I was recording our off-season workout and making like music videos, basically like mashing up our workouts and like adding music to it. And the coaches were like sending out to recruits, like showing them what we were doing, like working out. So we were doing all like the typical like ball handling shit with the
Yeah.
tennis balls and stuff, trying to like make it look cool. I mean, which actually worked. Like Skylar Mays was like the main guy we worked out with that year, and Skylar's like handle got so much better doing all that stuff. And even in the league, like he was able to kind of be effective with like some of his like shiftiness and like creativeness with the ball and finishing. So we did like all of that, and that was kind of like my main three things as like the GA was scouts. So I basically worked with every assistant coach, and I was doing basically personnel, um, which is I would watch the players and I would kind of scout them from a more like individualistic standpoint, and then the coaches would kind of watch the team film to say like the sets, and then we would come together and then I would kind of organize like the fast scout or whatever, whatever your program you're using or whatever. But like we would kind of organize that. And then I was basically like the video coordinator because I was literally on the computer in film sessions, running the edits. I mean, Coach Wade's yelling at me if something's wrong on the film, even if I didn't prepare it, even if it's like the coach that did it and some clips messed up or whatever, like I'm getting all the backlash. So like I felt like part of the staff by my last year as a manager. I did 4 years. By my fourth year, I felt like I was full-time staff member, which most GAs nowadays are doing that kind of stuff. The position has evolved, I feel like, even since I was in school, as far as the involvement some of these GAs are. Then there's more, and I feel like GAs are more specialized now. Whereas me, I was really doing everything. I was doing equipment, I was doing on-court stuff. I mean, I'm working the scores clock every day, helping with meals, helping with travel, and then doing scouts on top of all that. So it was a great experience for me. That's where I learned how to code. That's how I learned how to like, coordinate travel and talk to other teams, and logistics and all that stuff. So it definitely shaped me into like what I am now for sure.
That's insane that you got such a hands-on experience being a grad assistant. That's
We didn't have GAs under Johnny Jones. So when I first got there, it was Johnny Jones, the head coach. We just had managers and they paid us scholarships. So we got scholarships as managers. So we were like GAs, but they didn't call it a graduate assistant. And then
oh, okay.
you would have guys who were like graduate managers. And that's basically what I was because we didn't have like a true grad assistant program with the basketball team. And then when Coach Wade got there, he was coming from VCU where every department had a grad assistant. You know what I'm saying? So there was like multiple. And so it was really just me and this other manager that was with me all the way through my manager career, Tommy. We were like co-head basically, but Tommy he was kind of over like the video as far as like filming practice video and like coding the game live. He kind of oversaw that, whereas I oversaw the video from like a scouting team edit standpoint. So yeah, I mean, I did all the slides. I mean, I did literally everything. And our video coordinator at the time, Alex Wharton, he was used to having a GA, so he let me do all that. And like same thing with our ops guy Nelson, like he let me do the travel, like let me reach out to teams and like reserve practice times and different stuff like that because they were used to having a GA anyway. But it was cool because I literally got to be the GA for everybody. So I was the GA for the assistants, I was the GA for the Dobo, I was the GA for the video guy, and so it helped me just like kind of shape me and keep me well rounded. And when I got to the G League, I was able to kind of do everything, which is what my G League position kind of is or was.
At this time, while you were in while you were basically grad manager for LSU. You were in a that was a pretty predominant time for the SEC. Do you recall any like big battles with like teams such as like like those Kentucky rosters were insane
Oh
during that
yeah,
stretch?
dude. I was telling the story the other day. Part of your responsibility is like when teams come practice, you host the practice or the shoot
Right.
around or whatever. So you're preparing the towels, the water, and the balls. And I can remember letting Kentucky in, and it's like Karl Anthony Towns, Harrison
No way.
Twins, Devin Booker, like all these dudes, and they're all
Holly
like decked out.
Stein.
Yes, and like Kobe's, they got their like the brand new fresh Kobe's on. Probably, I think it was like the Kobe sixes at the time, probably like. And I'm just like in awe, like because it was an NBA team. I mean, it was like two NBA teams. It was like 10 deep. All the guys touched the league.
Yeah.
And so like that was a real surreal moment. I can remember going to Arkansas and beating Arkansas at Arkansas. I think they had like Bobby Portis at the time.
Yep.
Um I'm trying Retno Basahan, which is a throwback name, but he's Alabama kid. He ended our Ben Simmons year. He had a pull up at the PMAC in Baton Rouge that like ended our season essentially because after we lost that game, we kind of like tanked the rest of the season and we were like one or two wins short. That kind of messed our record up. We had some big wins, but our record wasn't good enough. And that game was like it kind of like was a nail in the coffin for our season. I'm trying to think of other teams like or other players that came through. I mean, I remember one of my first games was Chris Chioza at Florida.
Oh, okay.
So I can remember like walking by Chris Chioza. This dude is like my height,
Hmm.
and the dude's just balling. And so like players that I watched in the SEC and even our team. I mean, we had like I think 7 NBA guys from my first 3 years for Johnny Jones era, and then with Coach Wade we had Tremont and Skyler,
Yep.
and Duop Reith who's playing for Portland now.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of other NBA guys. Like Coach Wade had a few NBA guys, and then after I helped recruit. I think I help recruit. Like I help prepare stuff that the coaches use to recruit those players like Nas Reed, Trenton Wofford, and Javante and all those guys. So like I know those guys from being around LSU and stuff. So like I mean, I got to, even being just at LSU, people don't realize the NBA talent at LSU is crazy. The success, the history is crazy. We're one of like the few teams that have like I want to say it's like 4 or 5 Final Four appearances. People don't really like put us in that. They kind of think football and baseball for us, but like our
Mhm.
basketball history is pretty good, and we've been competitive over the years. It's just as of late we haven't had that like long run of
Yeah.
success, which the SEC so damn tough now. Like you could have one good year, you come back, and it's like you got to restart all over
The
now. Especially with
bottom
the
again.
yeah, you got to start from the bottom. Like and with the transfer, I was like when I was in school, it wasn't nearly as difficult. But like now, I mean, you got to keep just reloading every year,
Exactly.
and it was tough back then. But now, I mean, the SEC to me is probably top to bottom toughest league basketball wise. But it was cool. Like the SEC is awesome. Like all the stadiums are nice. I mean, Tennessee's arena, and I'm a facilities guy. Like I love facility stuff. Like new facilities. Like that shit excites me. It gets me interested. And Tennessee's got like an NBA arena.
Really.
I think it's called Pat Summitt Arena now.
Mhm.
But like my first time going there, it's like on the water. It's super nice. Like the weight room's got the glass, kind of how
Oh.
Brooklyn's got the
Yep.
glass.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of the same concept. It's just a little the little river that runs through Tennessee. So going to Kentucky for the first time was crazy. I
Rupp.
mean, Rupp was insane. Even kind of a under the radar arena, but like Mizzou's arena, it's like
Okay.
20K. I think it's like 20,000. And when they're good, when they're rolling, which they had some good years, like their stadium's cool. Like it's so packed, it's so loud. So it was fun traveling. I think I got to go everywhere over my 4 years. I didn't travel every year. Like my first year, I didn't travel until the SC tournament. That was always fun too. Bridgestone Arena, Nashville, SC tournament. That's like probably the thing I missed the most about being in college. Like I used to love going to SC tournament. That was always really fun. So yeah, I mean a lot of good memories. My best friend Tommy, who I mentioned earlier, like made that's one of my best friends to this day. So like you make like lifelong connections. I ran into Coach Jones for the first time in years in Birmingham. He was getting off a Southwest flight. We were getting off an American flight. They were playing Sanford.
Hmm.
He's at Texas Southern now, and I hadn't seen him and his son in forever. His son works for him now, so like getting to see Coach Jones for the first time in a while. And that was another cool thing about LSU with Coach Jones. He had so many like NBA level assistants over the years. He had Brendan Sir, Eric Musselman, David Patrick, who was in the NBA. David Patrick actually helped me get on with as a manager. His first one of the first people I met with to become a manager. So like that was cool too, like having like NBA coaching experience at LSU as well as NBA talent and all the NBA guys that come around like Garrett Temple, Marcus Thornton.
Yep.
Marcus Thornton I watched on the Hornets growing up. So like Like those guys would come around. Dupree, who's with the Bucks now as a scout. I think he's like a director now. He's one of my good friends too. LSU basketball is super underrated, and I'm probably rambling about them, but I love LSU. I'm a Baton Rouge kid, so I'll ride or die with them every day of the week.
You didn't mention the Big Diesel. I'm surprised.
So Shaq would come around, but he's so damn he's such a big figure. You could barely get any FaceTime with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when he
Yeah.
comes around, he's like sitting with Dale Brown. He's got like people aren't crowding him. And I'm not one of those people like I'm only gonna talk to somebody that like is open up to me. So the only interaction I ever had with Shaq directly was he signed a bunch of basketballs for us one
Mhm.
year. And so I was able to like kind of talk to him as he was like signing a bunch of basketballs. Never got to build like a real relationship with him, but like I said, he's all over the place. So like some of those other guys I mentioned, like live in Baton Rouge in the summer. So like they're
Mhm.
always around. Like whereas Shaq played there, but he's, I don't know where he lives like currently, but like I'm assuming he's between LA and like all the business stuff he's with. So like he's just always on the road and stuff. But he would definitely come through and show love. Like Shaq's definitely like a LSU like even now he like reps Angel Reese, like he's repping
Mhm.
the girls. He's at the football games. Like he does I think he performed at Fred's, which is like the popular bar on
Really?
campus at LSU. I'm pretty sure he performed recently there for an LSU game, football game. So yeah, no, he definitely like shows love, and I'm sure he donates and stuff too. I'm sure, and I think his daughter went there after his. I think his son played there for a little
Sharif
bit.
O'Neal went there for a
I
little.
know his son played there. I think his daughter played on the team for like a season. I think
Really?
she
Okay.
might have transferred, but I want to say like his kids went there too. So I mean, yeah, Shaq's he's I mean, he got the statue up. I obviously didn't meet Pistol Pete. His son used to coach our camps in the summer.
Oh,
So
really?
like I got to meet Pistol Pete's son. The guy that owns Walk-Ons, Brandon Landry. He's the LSU basketball guy. So like I got to meet him through that. Like I said, LSU is such a good school for like networking, sports, I say celebrities, but just like popular sports figures that have come through there. Like, I mean, the football, I don't even know that many football people, but like the football people is endless.
Joe
How many?
Burrow.
Yeah, well, that's the more the recent guys, but just like over the years, there's so many guys that played in the league that come back. Odell always comes back, and those
Mhm.
guys. So, I love LSU, and it definitely helped me. Like I said, kind of train me for what I'm doing now, and I shout out to my staff and like I said, all the players that came through. And like I said, I still talk to Garrett to this day. Garrett I used to rebound for in the summers. Marcus we used to rebound for in the summer. So like those guys, it was always cool to be around NBA guys. When you're a manager, you're not realizing you're just rebounding for these guys. They're like they need you probably more than you think. But like
Mhm.
you're just sitting there so happy and so giddy to be around them. But like looking back, I'm like, oh, like if we weren't there, like they'd be shooting on their own. Like so we were actually helping them a ton. And
Mhm.
so they always show love. Like you could text them whenever you need anything. Garrett, like I said, always looked out. If I asked him to like talk to somebody for me, Garrett always showed love and stuff like that. So it was cool, just being exposed to all that at LSU. And
So
so yeah.
post LSU, you had your first professional team experience with the Naz Suns. With the
Yep.
Naz Suns, you were their video coordinator. How did this position come about, and what was your experience like?
So after LSU, I did summer league and I got assigned to the Suns, which is really cool because they had DeAndre Ayton. So we were always on the big court, Thomas and Mack or whatever, and
Mhm.
we were on all the primetime games and stuff. So I'm sure anybody that's listening to this has probably either been to summer league or knows why you go to summer league when you don't have a job and you're
Yep.
coming out of school. So I don't have to explain that. But um, yeah, I was doing the same thing everybody else does. I was at summer league as a team attendant, and I got assigned to the Suns and I tried to like as naturally as possible like build relationships. Like you got 2 weeks basically to network, meet people, and basically show people that they should hire you to like in an entry level position, right? And there's not like contrary to popular belief, like everybody thinks they just go to some league and the job's just waiting for them there. Like there's not that many jobs available. It's not as easy as people think. So I went like 2 weeks without any traction on anything. So I'm literally like depressed after 2 weeks. I'm like, man, I didn't get a job. Like I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like, I don't know, what I'm saying? So, anyways, throughout that week, there was a couple times we did extra workouts with the NBA guys. So,
Mhm.
like NBA guys usually go to summer league and they'll do like side workouts outside of the main team practices. And the coaches there, which and you probably know these guys, but like Cody Toppert,
Mhm.
Brett Burchert, those are the two main guys I was talking to that week. And they invited me. They were like, "Hey, you want to come help us for these workouts?" And so, like I said, same thing at LSU. Like at the time, you don't realize like how important like being a rebounder is, but like I'm just like, yeah, I'll do whatever. I'll rebound, wipe the sweat, fill up the water, whatever
Yep.
I gotta do just to be around NBA guys, right? And so I did that. And so I built a little bit of rapport. I had like a one Uber ride, I think, with those coaches. So I got to talk to Cody and Brett. And so I think they liked me after that. I think I was able to make an impression. I didn't like say anything or ask for a job or anything. But I was working under Jay Gasper, who's the head equipment manager for the Suns. And he was the guy that was like coordinating with me as far as like schedule and stuff like that. And so at the end of summer league, I said, hey, do you mind if I email you my resume? Any positions you guys have, like whatever. And so I think Jay like shared that with the staff, but at the time they had no position.
Right.
But the very last day of summer league, I ran into Big Shot, who is the head equipment manager in New Orleans, and he offered me a job because Jay was like, hey, this guy's from Louisiana. If you need a part-time guy, like he's right down the road. So I started actually working with New Orleans, but by the end of preseason, I was basically just doing team attendance stuff. I was going to practices, which was cool. I was working game days. I was just clocking in part-time, minimum wage. And then right at the end of preseason, Brett Burchard, the head coach for the NAZ Suns, calls me. He's like, hey, we just had a last-minute opening for our video spot. Are you interested? And I'm like, let me get back to you. But in my head, I'm thinking like, hell yeah. So I literally like talked to a couple of the coaches that were in New Orleans that I was cool with. And I asked kind of them the advice. I asked Big Shot at the time, like, hey, like, what do you think I should do? And so there wasn't a full-time position with me there in New Orleans. And I was basically told, like, you're going to get more of a better experience going do like a real role as opposed to just like ball boy, you know what I'm saying, part-time help. So I did that. I left and did that. And then it was literally the same job I did at LSU. It was personnel, edits, help rebound, help with the equipment, drive players. It was typical G League entry-level intern type stuff. And that was the role. And that was where I learned probably the most from a basketball standpoint, because when you're cutting film like that, and you're really having to like label and like recognize sets and recognize tendencies and stuff like that, look at analytics, look at stats. My basketball knowledge probably increased the most during that period because I just learned the NBA game. I learned the terminology, learned how coaches, kind of how game plans work, how are built. And, I was in coaches meetings for the first time. So that was, really eye opening. So yeah, that was kind of like the experience there. And, the good thing was I made a kind of like summer league within my short time in New Orleans. I was able to make an impression on some of the staff there. And one of the front office guys, who was our GM when we started as the Erie Bayhawks, Mark Chasnoff, me and him kind of were not close, but like we talked and we texted and stuff. And so throughout the year, he would just randomly hit me. And I basically told him like, hey, if the Pels are starting a G League team, like I'm in, like basically like, So as soon as my internship was up with the Suns, I went right back to New Orleans, got right back to doing part-time work with Big Shot in the equipment room. But I knew they were building the G League team. Like David Griffin and them and came in and Trajan, and they all were like plotting on the G League team. Oh. And so Big Shot, vouched for me, said, hey, this guy would be great. And they sat me down and they basically said, hey, you got two paths. You can either go, you could do video, because that's what I was doing before in AZ. You could there's a video coordinator role or there's an equipment manager role. And at the time, I'm like, I want to do front office. Right. I don't want to coach. So in my head, I was like, okay, let me pivot here. I was like, honestly, like I like to do more like operations, front office stuff. So like, which one of these would like kind of like help me get on that path? And so even though it was like equipment manager, it was a way for me to work underneath the GM more directly and be more like in that, like not in the front office, but like working under front office people to where I can at least be exposed to some of that stuff. Right. So that was kind of why I switched from like video to equipment. And I had such a good background in equipment. Like I mentioned the job earlier, the job I had in high school was Foot Locker. So I literally was like around shoes and like Nike gear all the time. Mm-hmm. So when I started doing equipment for basketball teams, yeah. And I always like a shoe guy, I was typical middle school, high school kid, always wanted the new shoes. And, you were always trying to, show off at school with your shoe game or whatever. I had a closet full of boxes and all this stuff. I still have some shoes from high school that I probably have only wore one time that I regret spending $200 on back then, but whatever, you live and you learn. But anyway, so that was kind of like the transition there. And for anybody listening, that's maybe at that same pivot point, like that's what I would always encourage people is like, know what you really want to do long-term and make sure whatever like lane you're in helps you get to that faster, because and like I probably could have done either or, even like because there's video people that like our old video coordinator in New Orleans is now a scout for us. Like, so there's ways you can transition over. But what I tell people all the time, like if you want to coach, don't do equipment, like go do video. You know what I'm saying? Vice versa. If you want to be an equipment manager, like don't do video. And if you want to be in the front office, whatever position you can get, that's going to help you. I would say video's probably I probably made a bad decision. Video's probably better because you're watching more ball as opposed to equipment. You're like in the laundry room more. Um, but I like all the operations and logistics and stuff like that
Yep.
too. So like being the equipment manager, a lot of equipment managers in the NBA, they're in charge of all that. They're not just doing laundry and like putting out the jerseys. They're coordinating travel, practices, might be personal stuff for the players they're helping out with, whether it's their family or it's, guy gets traded, you're helping them relocate, shipping stuff for them. Guys usually come to the equipment guys or like the travel guys or the logistics guys when they need like personal stuff. And I kind of like that side of things. Like I like helping the guys with like their off court stuff,
Yep.
whatever. So yeah, but I would always encourage people that, and people call me all throughout the summer a lot, looking for advice. And that's kind of what I tell them, like, get in the lane that's like closest to what you think you want to do long term. And if you realize you don't like it once you're in it, like you can always try to pivot, but like, don't do something that's like totally unrelated. Cause like, if I'm a coach, I'm not hiring an equipment guy to be my video coordinator. But
Right.
if a guy's telling me I've been cutting film and doing this, that, and the other on Synergy or Sports Code, then you're already kind of a step ahead of somebody who might just be doing kind of like the basic manager stuff or the basic intern stuff. So
So you mentioned being a part of being the equipment manager for the New Orleans Pelicans. At the end of the day, what was it like to be a part of the New Orleans Pelicans organization for about 6 years?
yeah, it's been great. So it's kind of like LSU. I'm from Louisiana, so like I'm a big hometown, home team kind of guy. So I literally grew up watching the Hornets. So like when I got that job, and like it was a part-time job when I first started, but like I was on 10. Like I was calling my buddies, like, dude, I just got, and at the time, I didn't realize that I would be there this long. But I mean, I tell people all the time, like I couldn't be more grateful to be working for my hometown team. And I'm probably not like most younger people in the industry, but like if I could work for my hometown team for the rest of my life, that's what I'd do. Like some people might want to explore New York. We talked about New York earlier,
Hmm.
and or they might want to go out west. Like I'm such a homebody and a hometown guy. Like I rep LSU, I rep New Orleans, the Saints, all the local teams. Like that's my teams, and that's what I want to work for. And so it's been a blessing. Shout out to David Griffin and everybody else. Trajan Langdon was actually the first person to like officially hire me. Um, so those two guys like owe them a lot, and like Adam Barnes, who I work for now, Big Shot, who I mentioned earlier. I mean, there's a bunch of people that help me, but like those are all like my bosses over the years, I guess you'd
Yep.
say. And Mark Chasnoff, like those guys looked out for me, and have looked out for me to this point, and I've been able to, move up a little bit through the G League team, which has been great. And honestly, like I like the G League because you can do a lot, and I'm used to that. I'm used to doing a lot of tasks and having a lot of responsibility. So I've enjoyed it a lot because for the last few years, I've been kind of like running the day to day of the team, and I kind of work in tandem with our head coach. Obviously, everything's kind of tailored to what the head coach likes as far as do we practice in the morning, practice in the afternoon, do we leave here, do we leave there? But I get to kind of coordinate all that and kind of make sure that stuff all runs smoothly. So it's been great. It's been cool, and it's good. And a mentor of mine told me this a while back, but like it's good being the guy that everybody goes to for stuff. You know what I'm saying? So like some people don't want to be bothered by other people. I'll leave me alone,
Yep.
I'm trying to do my work, whatever. But being the guy that knows everything and is kind of like in charge of everything, it's great because like for one, you build relationships with those people because they're always coming to you for stuff, but you also just you become so well rounded. Whereas like today, I literally got to the gym early. I rebounded for one of our players who's been wanting to get shots early, like before practice. So I was like, hey, like just hit me if you want to. Even somebody I'm closer with on the team. So I was like, hey, just hit me if you need a rebound or whatever. And then I literally helped one of our assistants do his PD workout. Because G League
Wow.
staffs are small. Everybody's got to kind of chip in, which is kind of our philosophy here. Like, hey, if you're not doing nothing, like go help out, go rebound, whatever. So like today, I got to be like an assistant PD coach because I'm like rebounding and like closing out to guys and like making passes and stuff, which I don't necessarily want to do that every day, but it's fun. It's something different, like in New Orleans, let's say I was the equipment guy or the travel guy in New Orleans or whatever, you're not jumping out on the court because there's like 20 coaches out there doing,
Yep.
you're just kind of staying. So the G League's fun because you get to do a lot of stuff. And especially when you're young and you got energy, like it's just fun and you learn a lot of stuff and you're closer with the players because you're just around them more and stuff like that. So yeah.
You were really prepared for that, actually, from your prior experiences at LSU, it seemed like.
Yeah, I mean the only thing that's hurting slowing me down now is I'll be 30 in April, and I could definitely feel it. The tendons aren't as loose as they used to be. I feel like I'm about to tear my Achilles every time I step out on the court. So yeah, I gotta be a little careful, when you're not used to like being active as much. And that's the one thing I probably need to get better at, if I'm being honest. If I'm doing some self-reflecting here, I probably need to stay in shape a little bit better during the season because you never know when you might need to lend a hand, on the court or whatever. Luckily, we have a pretty good staff that they kind of all jump out there before I do. Like our trainer, he'll jump out in drills, and we always joke about how because he's not like a basketball player, but like
Yeah.
he just he played sports, so he knows. But like we always joke when he jumps out in drills and helps the coaches out with drills because he's just like not a basketball guy. I mean, he's a basketball guy, but he's not like he didn't play growing up
Mhm.
like as much as other people in our team have. So, but yeah, no, it's fun. I enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot. So I've been
Stay
doing it for so
ready
long.
so you don't have to get ready. That's what our coach always says.
Yeah, no, because like literally the other day, Antonio Reeves, he wanted to go shoot at the gym late, and I had the key to the gym.
Yep.
And so I was like, damn, I'm literally on the couch. I'm like, Tone, damn it. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, let's go. So I'm like, cool. Well, he was working out. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just work out too. So I went and like lifted weights in the weight room while he was shooting. And then I went and like got shots on the other end. Like I was kind of feeling good. I told my boys that I'm in the summer. I'm like, y'all get ready because I'm ready to play pickup this summer. Like I'm ready to go. Started to get that itch again, because last year I didn't really play that much pickup, and I'm just so damn old now. Like I said, I thought I would get hurt every time I go play, so I try to avoid playing. But you kind of get that itch when you do like start like shooting around a little bit because I usually don't like shoot during practice. Like I'll go like weeks without like touching a ball, so, just like
Really?
like shooting it. Yeah, like I might like pass or like rebound or something, but like I might go weeks without even like shooting. But when I finally do like get shots up, you kind of start to reminisce a little bit. You kind of want to
It's the
get back
rush.
out there. Yeah, because I love playing. Like I said, like when I was younger, we played all the damn time. I mean, we played till the lights, till the street lights came
Mhm.
on, and even when they came on, we might turn the headlights on the car if we couldn't see good enough. Or we might just play in the dark, or we had those little, the goals you hang on the door. We'd go inside and we play 2-on-2 in my damn bedroom, dunking on each other on the
Yep.
little what do they call those hoops? I'm trying to think what they call those
The
hoops,
mini
but
hoops.
you hang them on the back of your door, and
Yeah, I have
probably
one of
probably
those.
probably broke some furniture in the process. I can't really remember, but yeah, we used to do that stuff too. I still do. Like I said, when I start playing again, like I get in a rhythm and I'm like, I want to keep playing. But it's hard when you're older just because there's not as much like you don't know as many people that are like playing pickup all the time. Even our staff, like it's not like our staff is like trying to play pickup after practice because you spend so much time in the gym. Like sometimes you want to go home. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just in the gym all day, all morning, all day. By the time practice is over, it's like nobody's trying to play pickup after that. So but I mean teams do it, but like I think our staff is a mixture of like some older people, younger people, and like so. But we're talking about doing an end of season game because our one of our trainers was like, yeah, when we go get an end of season game going, I'm like, yeah, we need to organize that. We need to figure that out. So
Going back to your point about like kind of getting that rush back. I can't even tell you how many like pieces of broken glass that have been in my house over the years, like windows, chandeliers. My mom wanted to kill me one time because it was Halloween actually, and she was giving out like candy in the front. So I'm like
nah,
dribbling, it's like freezing outside in New York around like
yeah.
fall time, stuff like that. So I'm like
Oh, you're
dribbling
like
the
dribbling
ball.
indoors.
I'm like dribbling around, doing all these behind the back because this one I was like I was like really young, so like my handle wasn't as good as it is now. So the
Yeah.
ball just goes flying and boom, like a piece like the door glass gets broken. I
Yep.
send my uncle outside to like distract her while me and like my cousins like scurry on and like clean it up. Yeah, I'll never forget that. But I can agree, I can testify, I'm kind of cool
I
at that point.
I could think about when I was like I think it was like elementary, but I got a pair of Shacks and I didn't know any better back in the day. And I'm thinking I got the coolest shoe. They were like all white. I wore them to sleep, and I had my basketball. I can remember being in my Shacks dribbling around the house because like I just felt like a hooper. I'm just sitting
Yeah.
there, kind of like kids dress up like superheroes. I used to do that too. I used to dress up like Batman.
Hmm.
But like I would dress up like I'm ready to hoop, and I'd have my shoes on, my ball inside, be dribbling my room. And then, once your parents realize what you're doing, they like yell at you from the other room. They're like, "Don't be dribbling in the house." And you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, sorry, sorry." But yeah, no, we definitely as kids like I had a friend. He lived it was probably like a 5 to 8 minute drive. So I mean, a few miles away, but we live like in the suburbs. He would literally walk after school from his neighborhood to my neighborhood, and like it was down like major highways. But like it would just to play 2-on-2. It'd be like me, him, like two other friends. I had like a guy down the street that would come up, and like we played 2-on-2 in the driveway for hours. I mean, hours. And we pull the goal into the street if we wanted like more space.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, yeah, I played more. like that than like actual organized. Because I only played AAU like 2 summers.
Right.
So like as far as like organized basketball, I barely played organized basketball. I played more like that, like growing up. And then even when I got to LSU, we'd go to the rec or
Yeah.
we play like manager games, stuff like that. I'm probably the team leader and LSU manager game leader in three-point field goal attempts.
Go.
Not makes or percentage, but definitely attempts. We'd
Sorry,
play games
you
and I'd
gotta
go
get your
like 0,
shots
0
up.
for 10. Oh, I'd go like 0 for 10 some games. And I can shoot. So, I'm just like, I'm going to keep shooting them. But like, there'd be some game I'd just be like off and I'm just jacking them up. But those are good times too. The manager games, we didn't really touch on that. But that, for any managers listening, they understand. But those are good times when a visiting team comes in. Or we didn't travel a lot of managers. We couldn't always play on the road a lot. But those manager games felt like damn Super Bowl for us.
So when you first started with the Birmingham Squadron, it was 2021, and you were their head equipment manager, and you
Mm.
actually rose all the way to being their associate director of basketball operations. What was that transition like for you between roles?
Yeah. So basically, it was like kind of like I was talking about earlier. I think I could do everything that I was eventually handed down responsibility wise because I had touched it all, like early on as a manager and stuff. But it was like just initially, it was like, okay, you're doing equipment. But then as the seasons progressed, so my first season, we had like some issues like with the schedule communication and like we had in Erie, we had to practice like 3 different locations. So we'd go from like Mercy Harris College, Penn State Barron, and the arena. Oh, and Lecom, which was like a medical facility that had like a court, like a little rec court. And so we would like always be like practicing at different times, different gyms. The pickup times were different. And like in the G League, if you don't know, like guys don't all have vehicles. And in Erie, not a lot of guys have all had vehicles. So everybody's like riding the team van. So you're trying to coordinate like who's picking up who. We had like 2 van pickups. So we had like 2 vans and like one pickup would be at one time to pick up. And then, all the stuff that goes into practice, you have like table times and PD times and weight room times. And so like we just had a lot of confusion early on with that. And I wasn't doing the scheduling at that time. And so like I forgot if it was our trainer maybe or our coach. I forgot who was doing it, but I think at the time I was talking to like Panone, I think throughout the year. And I think I did it like a couple of times and they were just kind of like, yeah, like you seem to like have a better feel in this. So, like you could like you from now on, you do the schedule. So I was started sending out the schedule. And so like it was stuff like that would happen. So like travel, for example, there was a couple trips, like name on the tickets wrong. We didn't update the manifest or flight got delayed and nobody knew about it, or we're checking in and guys are supposed to be in exit rows or in middle seats. G League shit, NBA guys would understand this, but well, most NBA guys have touched the G League though, so they might understand a little bit. But anyways, so yeah, so like once I got like asked to help with that, or hey, can you do this one day? It was kind of like clear that like I had the brain for it because like my brain just works like that. Like some of the logistics stuff that goes on in the G League or in basketball in general, like my brain's just like made for it. There's like like I remember like guys like birthdays,
Mhm.
because you're entering it. So like I remember our team credit card like by heart,
Really?
because and so that was another thing. We were like missing receipts on the team credit card. So like we go to, so I was like, all right, Dylan, like you're in charge of the card now. So like for the last like I think 3 years, I've been like in charge of the team card, and I have to like deal with accounting. But like having a business degree background, like it's not like hard for me. I took accounting classes, so I understand when accounting hits me, I know what they're talking about. I have some exposure to that kind of stuff. So yeah, like that's literally how it happened. Like, and just after a couple of years of doing that, after the bubble, my boss at the time, our GM Mark, was like, "Hey, like, I can't really promote you, like as far as like your position, like as far as like in the ladder, but I just want to like improve your title because you're doing like way more than an equipment.
Mhm.
Like you're doing, I was doing like our meals. I mean, I was doing all kind of shit.
Wow.
Coordinate with the bus drivers, coordinate the weight team, stuff like that. And it was fun. I mean, it was like, I'm glad I got to do it all. And so, yeah, and it kind of helped other people kind of stay in their lanes. That was kind of my thing too. Like in the G League, sometimes you have like coaches that are like doing the travel, or you might have like the trainer doing the schedule. And my thing was like, I always felt like, nah, like trainers, you train, coaches, you coach, like GMs, y'all scout. Like I'll do all this shit. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that was kind of my thinking on it. And I think it helped us as a staff because the staff was able to do what they were hired to do. Because like in the NBA, that's kind of how it is. Like when you're hired to do, as a trainer, usually you just kind of stick to your training stuff and treatments and stuff like that. And like you're not worried about like the laundry being done. But in the G League, you had trainers like doing the laundry and like
Right.
setting up the locker room. And so I think it helped a lot of like the older generation of trainers in the G League, like get the experience and stuff, because you have some trainers, like some OG trainers in the G League that were doing travel, equipment, and being the head trainer, which was crazy to think about. But like that was my thing, was like, how can I help the staff be more efficient, and like how can I help the players too? Because like the gear wasn't maybe the gear wasn't right on the road because the laundry didn't get done right. Well, I pushed for me to travel after the bubble, after COVID, because I'm like, hey, like the gear's getting messed up on the road, like messing up the players, like that's like a psyche thing almost. Like you get to the gym and you expect your gear to be there, and you're like missing your socks, you miss stuff, and like
Yep.
guys are missing shit, and like where's my this, where's my that, where's my shoes? It could be anything, but like that was kind of my mindset, was like, how can I help the players and the staff just like be more efficient and like help everybody like do their own jobs and be able to just focus on that. Like the head coach shouldn't be worried about schedule or so. Like even now, like TJ is probably waiting for me to send the schedule out from today. And TJ, he's so damn detailed. Like he thinks about all that stuff. I don't think it really distracts him. But if you don't like do stuff a certain way, he'll like call it out or notice it. But to me, I was like, I'm gonna help all those people be able to like focus on their main stuff and not have to worry about. And that was how I was able to kind of like add to my plate, which helped me get that like bump in title. But it wasn't like I was doing anything like crazy different. It was just like I just kept kind of adding more and more little things, and like it kind of became its own role in a way.
So you've always dreamt of being a GM at like such a young age, as you mentioned before. Currently, you're the assistant general manager of the Birmingham Squadron, as I mentioned before as well. How does it feel to finally have this position, and what are the biggest challenges of this job?
Yeah, so it's great to have this position. I was super grateful when Adam gave it to me, and it felt like I kind of broke through a barrier, because literally, like as soon as you get that title, like people look at you differently, which is wrong. Let me be honest and say that. Like there's so many talented people in the G League that are probably outperforming their titles, and I just felt like it helped me from a recognition standpoint, because literally I had people like messaging me like congrats with that, and I had people like, oh, I didn't even know you were like doing this, like I didn't know you, like, so the title helped a ton in that regard. But I was always striving to like break into that kind of like front office lane type deal. But the job entails kind of what I was saying. It just kind of like it's a little more like added responsibility, because Adam is kind of trusting me to kind of oversee everything on the team. So like before it was more like just logistics, and I was just kind of like making sure that kind of like making sure, like trying to think of like an analogy for it, but like I was kind of like making sure everything was like set up and prepared,
Right.
but I wasn't really like having a lot of input or knowing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. So like, your G League brain trust is kind of like your head coach, your GM, and then obviously whoever on your NBA side is like kind of like report to, you kind of deal with them. Once I got to be like in this role, I kind of was like brought in a little bit more to the brain trust. So now you're like in some more conversations that you might not have been in before. You're scouting the G League a little bit more. I don't like scouting. I wouldn't say is like one of my main responsibilities. It's just one of like many. And so yeah, I mean that's kind of the only like major thing that's been added, is like it's just like a little more like responsibility as far as like your weight and like your say so and stuff. Like you might have a little more like your voice kind of means more. You gotta be kind of
Right.
careful too, like how you like present yourself, or like even conversations with players aren't the same. Like when I was an equipment manager, I could bullshit with a player,
Yeah.
and like you're almost like friends. Well, here I still try to like build those relationships with guys and make them feel comfortable, where like they don't need to be like not want to talk to me. But I also understand like I can't be like you know,
Like buddy
locker room
buddy,
in the
right?
buddy or in the locker room all the time. I can't like you got to give the guys like their space in the locker room. You don't want like the assistant GM like hearing like whatever that we talking about in the locker room. Like some of that stuff's like confidential, or just like it's like player talk. And same thing with the coaches. Like you got to let kind of like coaches coach. So I kind of just try to my main thing. I try to like oversee everything, and I try to make sure nothing messes up. So I'm not always like necessarily doing something actively, but I'm like proactively like anticipating what could go wrong, or like is this not happening the way it should? Maybe we should tweak this or whatever. I also deal with the business office a lot, which I didn't do as much before. Our old assistant GM would kind of deal with that a lot. Um, and so that's like the biggest added to is like me and the business office communicate and coordinate a lot. The assignments is a big part of my job now too, is like when guys are coming back and forth, I know like sometimes I'll know before they know the assignments, because it might be like middle of the Pels game. Hey, we're gonna send this guy, assuming everybody gets out of here healthy or whatever. Can you set up the flight? Can you make sure he's got everything set up? So you're just kind of like you're in more like confidential conversations, and people kind of look to you a little bit more like as a leader, which I think before people definitely like gave me a voice and I felt like I was heard in my role. I just wasn't trying to like analyze everything. Whereas now I'm always trying to like make sure, everything's on point because I feel like my job is kind of make sure that everybody's experience here from the staff to the players to
Right.
the interns is smooth. So I just try to make sure everybody's taken care of and try to, I feel like the team mom, honestly, all the time, like that's kind of how I feel, so, but I like it. I like taking care of the team and we try to make our G League team be as professional or as close to the NBA as possible. So obviously, like resource wise, G League's different, but we try to make sure everything is as much as we can mirror New Orleans and how we do things in New Orleans. That's what we try to do here, and so I just try to spearhead that as the assistant GM. So and try to make sure whatever messaging that New Orleans, wants is like, reiterated down here. So
So as we all know, you can't ever be complacent in where you are in your life, like whatever profession you're in. So what are your future aspirations for your career?
that is a good question. So I mean, I just got this, title and promotion. So I mean, I feel like, pretty good right now. I don't really have like a direct next step. I think the next big thing for me though is to do one of two things: is to be in a full-time position in the NBA. I'm not sure exactly what that title, is, but I think like, breaking that barrier and getting to the league, or becoming either a G League GM or honestly just doing more scouting. I think those are like the three kind of things that are like on my to-do list as far as like my next step, I either want to be in the NBA doing something. I want to be either scouting, scouting more, or like be a GM of a G League team. Well, I mean, ideally it would be our G League team, but so we'll see. But I'd be kind of happy with any of those three kind of next steps. And the good thing is like I'm year one in this one, so I don't really have like it's like I have like pressure to like, oh, by next year I got to do. I feel pretty good as far as um getting to that point at some point, but I'm not like in a rush either. So
No, 100%. Well, Dylan, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate you giving this opportunity and good luck going forward, man.
appreciate it, man. Nice talking to you.
Thanks for listening to Gen Z Hoops. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe on Instagram, LinkedIn, and all major social media platforms at Gen Z Hoops. You can tune in and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and every other podcast platform on the planet. Get ready for the next episode.